Hi, my name's Tom, and I want to talk about analyzing resentments using nonviolent communication. So I was talking with someone a few days ago. They were saying they had this resentment from many, many years ago, but they still felt the resentment, and they were sure it would go away in time. And I said, for sure, it'll go away in time. But if you have a resentment, maybe it's good to try to analyze it and see what's going on, because even if it's not like a big deal in your life right now, it might give us something to work with. You know, you might unearth something that is relevant to you right now that's making you still feel that resentment. So we agreed that maybe that was a good idea. And I thought, hey, let's try nonviolent communication on this resentment. So I'm not going to go into what that is. I was just about to explain nonviolent communication. You have to just figure it out while you watch the video or go look it up. But there's 4 steps to the nonviolent communication. It's to make an observation, state a feeling, state a need, and state a request. So we're going to use an example, basically the resentment the person had, and I have these same resentments, and almost anyone alive, if you're watching this, you probably have similar resentments. So this person had a relationship with a friendship that they thought was a serious relationship, supposed to be a meaningful relationship. And the other person actually maybe didn't really like them, excluded them from things, tried to avoid them, but to their face pretended like, oh yeah, we have a real friendship, you know. And so it was kind of this dishonest relationship, although dishonesty is not part of the observation. So let's just make the observation. I notice that sometimes you exclude me or avoid me. Okay. And then we go to a feeling, right? And that can bring up a lot of feelings. And again, with the feeling, you want to make sure that it's not an accusation. You don't want to say, I feel ignored, because ignored is not a feeling. You can't feel ignored. You know, I might feel like you're ignoring me, but that's an accusation. How do I actually feel? To keep it really simple, I feel sad. There's more complex feelings that could be there, but keeping it really simple, when I notice these times when I am avoided or excluded, I feel sad. And then what's the need? I have a need for honest relationships. I have a need to be included. I have a need for meaningful relationships. And the idea is, if this person doesn't like me, sure, that's fine, but I still have a need for honest relationships. It's okay if you don't like me, but I don't want you to pretend like you like me, because that's violating my need for an honest relationship. And it's okay if you're not capable of having a significant and meaningful relationship with me, but I need to know that so that I don't put you in that position in my mind. I don't put that expectation on you that we're going to have a meaningful relationship. And then the request would be something like, hey, please don't lie to me or mislead me about the nature of your feelings towards me. I'd like to know how you really feel about me. Okay, so now the resentment is long in the past. This person's not around anymore. It really doesn't matter. Actually expressing this to the person in question does not matter. But by taking the situation of the resentment and breaking it down with nonviolent communication, well, it's exposing feelings. And again, we just said in this video, sad. But in the actual conversation, we got in depth about more specific feelings that were there. So you can unearth these feelings, and then you can unearth these needs. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I do have a need for honest relationships. You know, like I want to know how you actually feel about me. And then we can deal with the resentment. I'm sorry, I just said Then we can deal with the resentment by looking at the request. And the way I thought of it was, well, how can I live that request? Of course, the situation's gone, it's past, whatever, but I still have this need, and I still have those feelings when that need is not met. So what can I do based on that request to make sure that I'm meeting my own needs? And of course, in this situation, it is make sure I'm placing the correct kind of expectations on people, of course. And we already know we're talking about a resentment, and we already know resentments expectations are resentments waiting to happen, right? So I need to have realistic expectations of other people, of the relationships that I'm in. And if I know that I'm doing that, then I can feel less resentment because I have some sense of agency. I'm evaluating, okay, this person, are they being honest with me? If they're not being honest with me, I know right away where we stand. I'm not going to try to have a real relationship with you. This person, are they capable of having a deep and meaningful relationship with me? If they're not, no hard feelings. It doesn't mean that I hate them. It doesn't mean that I'm rejecting them from my life, but I'm not going to bring them in with that expectation of, okay, here's a person that I am going to have a meaningful relationship with. And of course, expectation may not be the exact right way to put it for some people's understanding. It's more like I observe that I do have these meaningful interactions with this particular person. So that is what I expect because it's the pattern that we have. You know, this person seems capable of having meaningful relationships, so I'm going to try to have a meaningful relationship with them. And I don't hold on to this expectation for the future that they're always going to be like that because people do change and they deserve the space to change. But at least I'm not looking at somebody and saying, hey, they seem kind of superficial. Let me bring them in and try to like have an honest relationship, which is what had happened in the case of this resentment, right? So I can protect myself from future resentments and I can heal the resentments that I have now by regaining the power in the situation to meet my own needs based on the requests that I would have made of the other person. So I really don't know. I'm not like an expert on nonviolent communication. I don't know if this is the kind of thing that it's meant for at all. But I thought it was an interesting way to just work with the resentment and say, how can we look at this resentment more clearly? Which is obviously something worth doing because our resentments are a big problem in life. So, and not just a big problem, they're also a big opportunity. It's like, well, what can I get out of dealing with this resentment? So I was really happy with that. I had never done that before. I'd only learned about nonviolent communication recently, like a month ago or something. And I started looking at my interactions with people. And I was really proud of myself to see, hey, I do kind of do this naturally quite a bit, you know. And it was really good to get the more specific techniques so I can make sure that I actually dial it in and do it for real. It's useful to have these techniques because all things being perfect, if I have good insight and good concentration and I have goodwill towards other people and compassion for other people and sympathetic joy for other people and equanimity for other people, if I have all of that in place, I'm going to do these things naturally. Okay, but I'm not always going to have all of that perfectly in place. So it's really great to have the technique to fall back on. So even when it's not happening organically, just based on how I feel and how I approach life, I can still do it. I can still do the technique even if I'm not feeling it perfectly in that moment. So it's best to do these things organically, I think. But it's great to have the technique and even to fine tune it. Because just because I have compassion and sympathetic joy and goodwill doesn't mean that I have the exact communication skills that I need. So the communication skills will benefit by me having that underlying foundation, right? But they work even if the foundation's not perfect. So anyway, I rambled about in a circle about that long enough, but it was cool. Nonviolent communication, resentments, analyzing these things and seeing what we could take from them. So that's it. Thanks for checking this out. Thanks for listening.